Welcome back to the Kacee Allen Show. I'm your host, Kacee Allen. We have a special guest today, Doug Chico, who's running for the Congressional District in Florida, First District, to possibly unseat Jimmy Patronis. He is an America First Navy former officer, and he's here with me now live. Doug, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Casey, glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So tell us exactly what your campaign's about, kind of a bit of a background, and what exactly you seek to accomplish in your district in Florida with this campaign.
Awesome. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't have long-term political ambitions. I decided to run for Congress back in October. I'm just really concerned about the state of the country, the direction we're moving in, and specifically, I'm very concerned for my daughter's future. Amelia, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and the future that she's walking into, it looks pretty bad, and we need to fight for this country. So I'm willing to stand up and fight for it.
So I really admire that. And so you're a Navy guy. What encouraged you back in the day to serve our country as a patriotic act? What was the was it like 9/11? What was there a particular? I know you said it runs in your family, but what was the number one thing that really encouraged you to start this path?
So 9/11 definitely played a role in that. We have a history of military service in my family going back to the Revolution. We came here from the UK in the 1600s and then Northwest Florida in the 1800s. We're a sixth generation Northwest Florida family. Military service runs in our blood, and it runs way back. So, this country's worth fighting for. So that's why I signed on the dotted line, and I was a Navy supply officer. Went to the U.S. Naval Academy, and that's why I'm here now, because I take my oath very seriously to defend this place.
Yeah, I really respect that. I have a different level of respect for people that have served our country. I mean, I've never served our country myself in the armed forces. I have many family members that did, and I think we need more people like yourself who have literally seen, this country and not the worst things, but you've seen the authentic, whether you call it combat, whatever you've seen and experienced, that's a real American experience, and I think that most can't relate to, especially a lot of these. A lot of these guys that are like they come into the politics as nepotism. Their dad kind of, they get this job as a senator, and they really don't do anything or work any job in their entire life. So it is really good to see. Are you a millennial by chance, or are you?
I
I guess
am. So
generation.
I am. I'm 35 years old. I'll be
There
36
we
in a
go.
few months. So, we have a lot of I'll just be honest. We have a lot of dinosaurs in politics. You have folks that can't understand what ChatGPT or LLM is. So, how can they, possibly regulate or look after AI if they can't even understand what it is? So, think of Mitch McConnell. He's, you know, not able to walk and falling down. So, do we need 80, 90-year-olds in Congress? Probably not. Maybe we need term limits in there. So,
Yeah, that's an interesting topic there. We can transition right into that one because I've always been back and forth with term limits. I think my idea on this has always somewhat changed. I used to be for term limits completely because I just have seen the blatant corruption. I thought that would you're just basically forcing this person to do a certain amount of time, and if they're just horrible at their job, then they will be gone. But to me, I realized after being in the system, after campaigning for other people, it really doesn't make much of a difference. I think it can help, but at the same time, I think like someone like a Thomas Massey, and for example, which is kind of maybe an exception to the rule. But my congressman, if we had term limits, we wouldn't have him anymore. And at least right now, I'm open to consideration of possible changes, but I'm very thankful that we can still have a Thomas Massey in Congress, like the one guy who really is America First. He doesn't. Our constituents is, myself included. He said the same thing for 12 plus years, and he's never capitulated on his messages. And that exactly is what people want. I mean, you want to see the authentic politician that will actually stay in power for a certain amount of time without being corrupted, which is extremely rare.
yes.
If you want to give your take on that one, I know term limits is a very very nuanced topic, and it can go on for hours about that one. But what do you think with term limits, like you were saying?
So I'm a fan of term limits, but even more importantly, if we can take an idea like shortening the campaign cycle, let's say a month, a few weeks, maybe 2 months, that will decrease the amount of capital that a candidate has to raise. Currently, let's say you need about $10 million to win a U.S. Senate race. The average Senate race, according to the Leadership Institute up in D.C., costs $2.3 million to win. These are incredible numbers, and oftentimes candidates have to go to special interests, or they choose to go to special interests or corporations to get that money. So if we can get the money out of politics, repeal Citizens United, I think that ruling was terrible. And then if we can shorten the campaign cycle, that will not only level the playing field so we can get more average, patriotic, everyday Americans into office and decrease the need to raise as much money. I think they'll go a long way to fixing our current situation.
Yeah, like I said, I'm back and forth about it because like I would love to see the dinosaurs in Congress gone, and if a term limit makes that possible, yeah, I mean I'm kind of for it, but at the same time, it's like I do understand there's not many people that are like a Thomas Massey in my opinion. So I think that yeah, maybe we could do some good with term limits. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, but yeah, it is a very interesting topic. But anyway, you did say that one of your main points of running was because of the crisis of illegal immigration, everybody that Biden let in over the past 4 to 5 years. So tell me what your policy on immigration would be should you win this election.
Sure. So my slogan is ICE, immigration enforcement reform, civil liberties, and effective affordability. On the immigration piece, we have to act quickly. We have about 65 million plus illegal immigrants here in the U.S. You know, you always hear we've got 20 or 25 million illegals in this country, but they've been saying that for 20 to 30 years. I think they're drastically undercounting the number of illegals here, and we need to get these folks out. We need to debank all 65 million plus of these people. We need to enforce the laws in the books to prosecute and fine the CEOs. Like instead of just having 25 ICE officers go after that one illegal alien, find the worst of the worst offender in the S&P 500, get the national news media, Newsmax, CNN, Fox News, take 25 ICE officers, and you perp walk that CEO out of his mansion at 6 a.m. on national television. That sure as heck sends a message. You need to hire legal workers, hire Americans, don't hire illegal aliens, and watch that stock price plummet, and that will sure send a message.
Yeah, amen. And it's not even just the illegal immigration. It's funny because you talk about even with things like H-1B visas, things that are still disenfranchising young American workers who, they've had generational, um, they've had, like I said, yourself 6 generations of family here. So that's a lot of heritage. And to say that one day that someone could come in and undercut your job because they're getting paid 2 times less and they work 2 times harder. Do you have a policy with how you would possibly handle H-1B visas, or do you think that's a problem as well?
I would have it a full stop, a moratorium on all legal immigration for a few years until we get the situation under control. Because right now, we're still getting swamped by H-1B ones from India. I mean, I know Dallas, Texas is the epicenter of that crisis, but whether it's H-2s, H-1B ones, shut it all down until we can grasp the situation. Because this is a crisis. This is a national emergency. We have to debank all these people, like referred to. Stop funding the darn NGOs. Both parties, unfortunately, just agreed to send billions of dollars to the same NGOs that facilitate this mess in the first place. And another thing we have to do is we have to start talking about taxing foreign remittances. 1% is not enough. If you're not here legally, when you go to Walmart and send money home via Western Union, you should be taxed 80, 90%. If we take these administrative steps, folks will self-deport because it won't make sense for them to stay here. And millions will go home, and the taxpayer will literally save trillions of dollars over the long run.
Yeah, that's an excellent plan. And I'm not sure what the state of Florida is because I'm sure it varies by state. But I know, for instance, Texas, I think they said like it was like a staggering number of, I guess, the demographics of illegals. And I guess how they're just totally just losing what that state once was.
Yep.
And I think that's a major problem. I mean, I've seen it myself firsthand. I think America has predominantly changed from what it looked like just 20 years ago. I mean, I'm Gen Z. I'm a Zoomer. I was born in 2000. So, yeah, I do remember the world being a much different place, and that's a number of reasons. Not just immigration. Obviously, the culture and technological advancements have definitely changed the way we perceive the world and everything around us. Um,
Yes.
so what is your take on, because I know this has been a hot topic within Florida with this whole AI data center. Can you explain everyone what exactly the AI data centers do, what they are, and what's the plan to implement them in a state like Florida, like your own?
So we already have 10x the number of data centers that the Chinese have. And if the Chinese are kicking our butt in terms of AI and quantum computing, I have to beg the question, why do we need more AI data centers? Because they're impacting our water quality and the environmental impact is just horrendous. So we need to take a closer look on why do we need more data centers? Are we building a digital prison, or are we trying to bring AI to compete with China? Because again, we've got 10x the data centers they have. Why do we need more? Just a question.
Yeah, that's really concerning because I've seen estimates that could increase electricity bills like 25% a
Yep.
month. I mean, that's we're talking within this year at some point. So you're talking about, I mean, Americans that can't even afford basically, rent, put aside even getting a home. Now you're going to say that the house that they rent, that they can't even afford groceries. Now
Mhm.
they have to pay, 25% more overnight like that. So I think that's going to be detrimental. And again, I don't know if it's like a black pill. It's like if there really is no way out of that. Like, do you think that if there are enough people in power like yourself that would shut down this, I guess it would be against more AI data centers, do you think it could actually make a difference and this could be stopped, or do you think it's inherently too late at this point?
So I'm not going to be fully black pilled. Again, I'm here fighting, and we have a grassroots campaign. It is late in the game. I do. We need more folks to get into the House, get into Congress to fight for this country. They're not going to sell out to this corrupt system. But I wouldn't say it's too late. But we are getting in that direction. We need people actually to stand for this country, stand for our people and citizens. Again, they say the word consumer. I think we should get back to calling Americans citizens. We have God-given rights. We're not just consumers. But again, that messaging is kind of one thing to look at. But yeah, we have enough AI data centers. We shouldn't be jacking up the price of electricity for Americans. I mean, my food costs have more than doubled. I have a daughter. Food costs have doubled already, and it's just people are getting squeezed right now. And if people cannot afford to feed their children, they will unfortunately, in my view, accept whatever government tyranny comes their way. So just food for thought.
Exactly. That's where we're at as a country right now. I mean, I think I saw a meme the other day because it used to be like, like not even a generation or two ago, you would be like 30 years old. The average person would have a home, a family, a
Yeah.
wife. And it's like now, like I saw a meme that said, you'll rent your apartment that you'll one day be able to buy groceries in. It's like, so kind of like we're really done. We're totally just destroying the way of life. And a quote that I heard once, that there's no point, basically, if you can't have a kid, if you can't have a marriage, you can't have a home, what essentially is the point? Because if you have no way of accomplishing that as the average American, you're essentially just a wage slave, and you're basically just you're contributing to the system, and the system isn't doing anything for you. So that's a major problem. I think it's
Yeah.
affecting especially my generation. I think millennials are equally or just as equally seeing it as well. Um, and yeah, I think it goes back to a lot of things. You talk about like national, like the Federal Reserve. It's I think we're seeing some of the things like after Biden and COVID, that bailout that doubled the money supply. And I think
Yes.
at
Yep.
first we didn't see the effects of that at first, but we're really I think that's partly what it is. I mean, doubling the money supply is like I don't think people realize how actually detrimental to the economy that is. And it affects all Americans really. I mean, I guess you could say if you're the ultra rich, you find a way to benefit from it. But yeah, this is predominantly just destroying the dollar. It's destroying the American dream, and like really, there's really no incentive to save money anymore because that's another thing
Yeah.
though. You talk about things like Social Security and things that are maybe possibly at stake, and they don't seem like I guess a Gen Z or a Zoomer can't say with confidence that they're going to be able to retire with just the average benefits that we're actually paying for now. So that's I think that's a big obstacle for really just every state to get over, and we really need just younger people that are 35 and below, like yourself, and even younger. I think that's where we're really going to see really progressive change in all these things like immigration, the economy, because you have the old guard who've been there for 30 plus years, and I'm not sure how long your opponent Jimmy Patronis has been in office, but these people never seem to want to change their ways. It's completely the old school playbook. They think it's like picking the lesser of two evils, and they
Yeah.
always find a way to it's like a bipartisan or a uniparty handshake that they
Yeah.
always team up against the people, and it seems to be the case every time. Is that the case with Jimmy Patronis? How long? I guess you're not to like give your opponent any sort of recognition. I'm totally against what he's doing, but
Sure.
is he kind of a rhino? I would assume he defines what I'm saying in a sense.
So his Liberty score is Thomas Massey's Liberty score is 101, and his is the same as Randy Fein's at 36. So he's only been in he hasn't passed a single bill. He's never even obtained a single co-sponsor. He's pushing to repeal Section 230, which actually would lead to mass censorship of social media. So any
Wow.
conservative voice is going to be wiped out if he gets his way, in my view. Because when you remove that shield for liability, think during COVID, what happened? Big tech, Facebook, and all these other platforms censored any discussion for medical freedom. If you remove that liability shield, which my opponent is trying to do, he's pushing that hard. Anything that could be deemed controversial, Twitter, Facebook, all these platforms will have to remove, because you and I could say one thing about whether it could be foreign policy, it could be about a corporation. That company is now liable. You could say, hey, I don't like this beverage. It's not healthy for you. Well, that what one statement could get Facebook sued if my opponent gets his way. And
Wow.
he's been in office for he went in 2025, hasn't really done much, and as far as I know, he's not very responsive, from what I hear anyway. But he's been in politics for decades in the state of Florida, and people can look up his Wikipedia page and check more about his history and any you know stuff there. I won't get into there, but you can read his Wikipedia page, and it's pretty long. But yeah, I
But
just
yeah, I guess in general though, it is interesting because I heard he. I mean, I don't want to. I want to make sure I fact check this is correct. But he, from what I heard, was one of the people that voted against Nancy Mace's bill that would have held Congress like sexual
yep.
misconduct crimes or all that like nonsense accountable. And I guess he voted against it. Is that true?
That is correct. He did vote to seal those records and make sure that folks committing sexual harassment, that none of that information is getting out there. So I don't think we should be protecting predators. If we have time to go ahead and conduct preemptive military strikes, I think we should be able to hold people committing sexual crimes and predators accountable. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But it was very unfortunate to see him vote against any type of justice for those victims.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed equally. Not even just someone like him, but it was really how the Republican Party in general just switched up on the American people. Like they really showed their true colors. And like, and for instance, it's like it's pretty crazy that you have things like the Epstein files. You have some of these like massive cases like this, but for some odd reason, not to give. And I'll be honest here, I think the Democrats mostly are doing this out of a political interest because they want to get Trump out of office. But at the same time, it's like they are the ones who voted with Thomas Massey. To seek transparency for some of these things. And obviously, not giving them any credit, but it's very
Correct.
interesting that you kind of see both sides like that. And it really, that's to me like evidence of like, yeah, we are literally in a uniparty. And like, I think it obviously partisan, image and reputation really matters. But I think that you can, nowadays, I think that the label Republican, libertarian, it's just like it is what it is. I think people really are more interested in what your policies are, like who you are as a person. I mean, obviously, yeah, there is importance to it, but yeah, I think the reality is like people just want to know, like they want someone who's authentic. They don't want some puppet
That's
who,
right.
like you said, doesn't respond to anyone, doesn't even talk to their constituents. I mean, thank God that's something I've never had to endure. I feel really blessed to have someone like Thomas Massey, a Rand Paul. Our state, besides Mitch McConnell, who's thank God he's almost out of the way soon. Gosh, a total nightmare. We're personally responsible for kicking me out of the Republican Party in Kentucky, just because I mean I didn't fall in line with the neocon agenda, which at one time was against Trump and called Trump basically that he needed to be impeached for January 6th. So this is what that faction of the Republican establishment believed in, and they'll easily just switch back up and go right under Trump's arms, and they'll say do whatever he says because that's where the donors are and the money. I'm sure
Yeah.
something about that. It's Kentucky, I'm sure, just like Florida, it just once money's in politics, it completely it takes ethics out of everything. It changes the game, and that was my experience in the about year and a half that I was in. I mean, I'm still technically in local politics a little bit, but not as an actual position anymore.
Mm.
But yeah, I did really learn the insides of that, and like I said, you seem to be like a newcomer to politics. Is that right?
I am. Again, I only decided to run back in October. That I didn't have long-term political ambitions at all, but just looking at the state of the country and where we're headed and thinking about my daughter's future, I'm really concerned she won't have the same freedoms and opportunities that I had. And can the next generation be better off than us? The way we're going, it doesn't look like that. And if we have people, I call him censorship Jimmy Patronis. He's censorship Jimmy. He wants to censor end the free internet as we know it, censor social media, and he's protecting possible predators up in D.C. for all we don't know. Who is he protecting, and why is he
Yeah.
voting this way? We don't know. But that's an important question to ask. Maybe folks call up your representative, not just in the first Florida district here, but across the country. Call up your congressman and ask, why did you vote to protect, possible predators? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgraceful to both parties and really everyone who voted for him. I just think it's a slap in the face. I really
It is.
genuinely don't think even even whether you're a Christian or not, whether anyone, I guess anyone in the country is. It's like I believe firmly Americans don't believe that protecting predators is the right thing. I think genuinely that's not what the average person would go to the booth to vote for. I think it's completely contradictory. And I kind of want to circle back real quick to the Section 230 thing to understand that. So, based on the way Section 230 is, my understanding is it allows social media companies the protection from lawsuits from anything said on their platform. But what you're saying is that if Patronis were to revise this, it would basically be that these platforms don't have the immunity protection when people can, I guess, when they say something politically unpopular on the platform.
Correct. So censorship Jimmy, again, he's pushing for full repeal of Section 230. So if we could all be deplatformed if censorship Jimmy gets his way. And I frankly, I think big tech, if the Democrats come back in and the way things are going, the Democrats could retake the House. God forbid they retake the Senate. Does big tech swing back to the Democrats? Because these tech companies, the tech bros, as they say, they back the Democrats. They switch the GOP, but I would say they're no fans of liberty. They are just out for money, profits, and control. I don't trust the tech CEOs. Yeah, they're on our side. Again, our side is in control right now.
Yeah.
But are we moving in the right direction? I say we're not, because if we were, I would not be running right now. I'll be honest with you. I'd rather be spending more time with my daughter, making more money, living my life. This is a step up. I'm stepping up for the country because I feel like we're close to losing it, and I actually mean that. So again, my family came here in the 1600s. We came to Northwest Florida in the 1800s. I'm ready to defend my home, and we need folks to step up. And it's going to take more than one man, but hopefully I get in the House and other patriots continue to run, continue to fight back, and we can retake our country.
And that's the ultimate mindset to have there, is because it needs to be treated as a sacrifice, not as a privilege or as an enrichment. I think that's the biggest misconception with the previous generations of politicians, because you can see clear as day, none of them are about these things. They really don't want to make any radical or progressive changes.
That's right.
They just want to sit right where they are and have a little boathouse and go golfing every Sunday morning at the country club. Like, that's what they're about. And really, I think it shows the power of just one person is all it takes, especially in this system, whether you're in Congress, whether you run for president. I mean, I think of, again, but it's funny how I always bring Thomas Massey back into this.
Sure.
Just think about what Thomas Massey, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and who was the other one? I believe there was another member, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's not there anymore.
Yes.
Think about what the power of just 4 congressmen did to side with the Democrats to make sure that we could even get a couple million of these Epstein files. Something just small like that. So it really shows you, 1, 2, 3, just a few voices, a few people that actually won't be compromised. That's all it takes. And because you're basically, even if it's one person, you're just a wrench in the system, and that's where you're going to trigger, like someone like Trump, who, said that we're going to, for instance, like the national debt, like we're not going to bring it up at all, and we're already at like 41 trillion. Thomas Massey said he would, like someone like him said, no, I'm not going to vote for this bill because it will increase the debt, because I stay true to what I tell my constituents, and that's why they like me. Even though the president's going to call me names, it's like that is what it really means to hold your ground. And
that's right.
If we have 10 to 20 people like that of exactly how you're describing your campaign, I mean, I think we will literally take this country back. That's inherently all it's going to take. And I know a lot of people will say like, oh, we can't vote our way out of it. But you know what? I think there's proof in the pudding that we can, because one person, let alone 10 to 20, I mean, it is going to be a nightmare for the establishment. And it goes back to how I firmly believe you make a good point there with how the big tech guys, the Peter Thiels, Palantir, they are only they're using Trump and basically just squeezing him as much as they can right now to get their benefits. And basically what Trump is essentially doing is, I think he's siding with his corporate interests more, pleasing them. At the same time, he's hurting the people who voted for him, in a sense, when it comes to that. But I think you're going to see that. You're literally going to see those guys, the Thiels, the Andrills, you're going to see all of them end up switching up to the Democrats. I guarantee during the midterms or 2028, if Newsom or an AOC, God forbid, gets in, I guarantee you're going to see them get right back to where they were once they have used Trump for his worth. And that's just my bold prediction. I think it just really goes back to how like it is, especially like I'll give you an example. I think it's absolutely insane that whether you like Elon Musk or not, I think it's crazy that he sent $10 million to Nate Morris, who's a U.S. Senate candidate in my state of Kentucky. And it's an election I'm somewhat involved in. I'm supporting Michael Ferris. I think he's at like maybe 2% in the Polymarket poll, but Polymarket odds. But so basically, Elon Musk to because this Nate Morris guy, if you know anything about him, he has a garbage truck company that's contracted with Palantir. And once you look into it, it's like, oh, it makes sense. And Elon Musk puts $10 million behind Morris, which is the most Elon's ever spent on any campaign. And I can tell you, Elon Musk has never even been to Kentucky. So it is a little weird that someone like him, who's never even been to Kentucky, probably doesn't know how to spell it, is so interested in our U.S. Senate race. And I think what it is, it's inherently they're trying to replace McConnell. They're trying to get someone in there who can just uphold the establishment GOP, and that's what Nate Morris is going to do. So I'm sure it's very similar to what's going on in Florida. You have very few people like yourself who, say you'll basically, because you'll say the things that the establishment hacks won't say because, well, obviously it's not right, and two, it's like that's not the future what voters want. Voters do not envision a candidate that's literally reciting the same puppetry. And again, it's the fact that you're willing to even hop on a conversation with someone like me. It's like you're willing to have the conversation that someone like a Lindsey Graham or like a lot of these guys, they just kind of hide in the closet and they really don't feel like that they have to give the public their time of day. So I think that's. I mean, for instance, you think you've done more TV time and interviews or I guess you plan to than your opponent? Because from what I understand, your opponent doesn't seem to be doing too much TV time, or at least from what I've seen.
Well, typically, my opponent, he's up in D.C. I don't know how much time he actually spends in the district, but I'm responsive. I just had a meeting with a local fire chief this morning for an hour and a half, talking about shortfalls for budgets, and Florida. We have a growing state. Unfortunately, in the free state of Florida, we have more folks moving here, which is kind of a testament to we have relatively more freedoms than other states. It's not perfect. I do have issues with certain First Amendment infringements for laws in the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis, America's governor, did a great job during COVID. There have been certain things that have happened that I would say could be a First Amendment violation that have come to pass for bills, especially for any bills being signed overseas, if you want to look into that. But I'm a First Amendment absolutist. The Second Amendment's under attack by certain Republicans. And Fourth Amendment, we'll get into that in a minute, is under attack by big tech and big government. But we've got a growing population, but in some cases, maybe a local fire chief is dealing with a massive population growth, but he's not getting any increase in his budget because, again, we don't have an income tax in the state of Florida. We run a very efficient government, but how do you balance that? That can be tough. So back to your go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, how do you balance that? That is really interesting because I know you guys have no income tax, and you guys are even talking about even eliminating property tax. Do you think that Florida they could run sustainably, or you guys could run that way with? I think it looks like it's very very sustainable. But do you think that's like possible overnight to just? I guess how do you do that? It's a better way to ask.
So from what I've heard from local county GOP chairs is what's going to happen is they're going to charge special assessments. So taxation it's not going to go away. You're going to have an assessment because you can't just say, hey, there's no property tax. So most likely some of that power is going to shift to Tallahassee, and you'll have more special assessments on businesses and property and stuff like that. So again, we'll have to wait and see. That's all conjecture at this point. I think property tax is theft. If we go back 100 years, actually, I'm going to go back in a second to this because before the creation of the Federal Reserve, we never had sustained inflation. Sustained inflation, not many people know this, was a 20th century invention. Back in the 1800s, you have long periods of low inflation and then periods of deflation. Deflation is what built our middle class. Back in the day, your grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, they didn't go to college necessarily, but they got a job. They worked 30, 40 years. The wife stayed home, and you could have 4 or 5 kids, and that was fine. You could afford that. I mean, now even with 1 or 2 kids, both spouses have to work. maybe multiple jobs in that cases, and then they're struggling to get by. So inflation really is government theft because two things: the Federal Reserve comes into existence, it facilitates virtually unlimited government spending, and yeah, just go back. According to the Federal Reserve, we didn't have sustained inflation before the creation of the Fed. So yes, we have had periods of central banks. You know, Andrew Jackson pushed back against the central bank. We
Mhm.
went back and forth of having one, but 1913 was a pivotal moment. U.S. income tax, again, it was going to be temporary and it was going to apply to few people. But we all know there's no such thing as a temporary government program. Whenever we give government power, they only expand it. Look at the Patriot Act, look at taxes. It's just insane. So, back on the civil liberties piece, which is the thing that really got me started, Flock Safety is a mass AI surveillance system. I would call it a Chinese style surveillance system that was rolled out in my hometown of Pensacola, Florida, late last year. I had never heard of this thing, but they rolled out 18 cameras that cover all the entryways and exit points according to the local city of Pensacola. What this system does, it scans every dent, every scratch, every unique identifier for your vehicle. And then they get your personal information, your name from the tag, your license plate. From that point, they build an AI model of what your vehicle looks like so they can detect it by that scratch. It goes to a national centralized database where 5,000 local police departments around the country can track you in your hometown and then monitor everywhere you go across the country. This system's in 49 states. There's between 56,000 and over 90,000 of these AI powered cameras across the whole country. It's really a control grid. So, my question is, why do 5,000 local police departments, let's say in California, New York City, or Kentucky, have the right to monitor my Sunday drive from Publix to church and then back home? I would say that's a clear Fourth Amendment violation. And then the federal agencies also use this for surveillance, as do state governments. So, all in all, I think this whole system is blatantly unconstitutional. And kind of tying it back into big tech as a whole, you know, our founding fathers were brilliant, but they could have never in a million years imagined a world with artificial intelligence, biometrics, modern surveillance, and all of this stuff we have in the 21st century. So I think we need a digital Bill of Rights to finish what our founding fathers started. Because I'll tell you what, the Chinese government, they have a constitution too, ratified in 1982, that guarantees freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. But Kacee, I'll tell you what, it doesn't mean jack crap, if you will.
It doesn't, and I
Yeah,
think it's an excellent point because something like the Fourth Amendment. I mean, we've even seen Mike Johnson. I think it was last year. The whole FISA bill. It's like we're literally taking away the Fourth Amendment rights of
that's
privacy,
right.
and not only digital objects. Let's say digital privacy, or I'm sorry, physical. We're talking about both realms here. So they can essentially just get a warrant for, or they can get, I guess, access to your phone and text messages without a warrant now, just for suspicion. And
Terrible.
you have both parties, unfortunately, siding with this. Another thing, I'm not sure if you heard about this one. This is pretty wild. It actually was passed by both parties. It was, I think it was Congress or Senate passed it. Actually, I think both of them did, and it's on its way to the president's desk. But basically, it's saying that any car that's manufactured after 2026 must have AI cameras installed, and it can determine whether you're intoxicated, and if it somehow thinks maybe by mistake that you're basically not capable of driving, it will just
Mhm.
stop your car right then and there. Like, we'll shut it off. Like that's something that's already been signed into law, and I think it's affecting really every single state. If you heard about that one,
Great point. So, from my understanding, it's going to be a kill switch that's mandated to
kill
be in
switch.
every
That's
new
right.
vehicle. Perfect timing. So, flock safety is the infrastructure that allows all this stuff to happen. In California, the Democrats have already shown us they want to tax us for every mile we drive. Flock safety, again, this control grid that keeps expanding, is the infrastructure that allows that to happen. This is not a hypothetical situation. It's already happening in England right now. In Oxford, over in the UK, they're using similar license plate reading systems, not as advanced as flock safety, but they're just reading the tag and they're taxing you for how often you drive. Now, don't believe for a second that the Democrats won't try and roll this out across the nation because flock safety is the infrastructure that allows to happen. Conversely, we talked about the bill that has a kill switch for all new vehicles. Flock safety, again, is the infrastructure that could enable that system to be in place because you're driving down the highway and you have that little scratch in your door and they already have an AI model built for your vehicle. It gets pinged. Look what happened during COVID in blue
Yeah.
cities, in Australia, in the UK, throughout the West. Government tyranny was rolled out. And if you didn't take an experimental jab, you lost a lot of your rights. Flock safety being this control grid across the whole country is something that could easily weaponize against us. And frankly, I would say it's already being weaponized against us. You're getting people pulled over just based on their driving habits by Homeland Security. If our founding fathers were alive, we know how they would respond. We had an American Revolution for a 3% tax on tea.
Yeah.
Now look
Yeah.
at the state of the country right now. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty clear what they would be calling for. I mean, it's even in the Constitution. But the
Yep.
craziest thing is, I want to ask you, I guess, with the flock cameras, who has jurisdiction or who has the authority to even install those? Is it only a government body can do that? Or can like a private, like let's just say, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts wants to put some flock cameras outside the restaurant. Could they do that, or like, and if so, does law enforcement have jurisdiction to like all the footage, or do they have to have a warrant for that as well?
So unfortunately with Flock, the whole issue is there's no warrant required. You
Oh,
have law
okay.
enforcement officers that just put investigation and they get access to any camera in all 49 states. So between 56,000 and 90,000 plus cameras can be accessed by practically anybody with database access. So again, that about 5,000 local police departments across the whole country, they just put investigation. As far as I know, there's been a lot of YouTube, TikTok videos on this. Just put investigation in the administrator tab, and you can go in and access and stalk us in Pensacola, stalk us in Kentucky, and there's no warrant required, no real oversight. And this is just we've opened Pandora's box with flock safety alone. And there are other programs, but this is one that's been getting more attention. Thankfully, I've been able to bring more light to it in the local area. I was calling congressional offices. I called Senator Loomis's office. Every single congressional staffer and a staffer for a U.S. Senate office, they all said, we've never heard of the system. Well, it's taken over the whole country and it's grown like a weed. Even Escambia County, this county for Pensacola, they've already expanded and they just put up cameras that cover all the entryways on the interstate. So you drive into Escambia County, or the cradle of naval aviation, as we call it, you're getting picked up by flock safety. It's
Wow, I
crazy.
mean, I feel like especially in a state like Florida, that contradicts the free state of Florida. Like that's
You
literally
think
what.
so?
Yeah.
But in some ways, Florida's moving backwards, unfortunately. We've got new bills coming out that are Florida's creating a new counterintelligence service to, look at dissenters. We've got some problems in the state of Florida. So people, just because you live in Florida doesn't mean that you can just go to sleep. We have to defend liberty and push back against tyranny anywhere, in all 50 states.
Yeah. Do you guys have to shape any policy based on because being Florida and being close to Cuba, Venezuela, like you have to shape. I guess that might be more of the immigration part. But I guess is that more? That's probably where a majority of the immigration problem would start from, right? Like a lot of these, like guys on boats. Is that where it comes from Florida? Do you guys know what the actual source from your illegal immigration is?
So that's a great question. A lot of our folks that are here and that shouldn't be here, they fly in. They
Oh,
overstay their
really?
visa. So
Oh,
again, I'm speaking in general for the whole country. So yeah, we have a lot of folks from Venezuela here. I'm just throwing out numbers. That's a gut feeling just on the ground. But a lot of the folks that have to go home, in a lot of cases, they didn't cross the border. They flew in and they overstayed their visa because our visa system is broken. There's not any type of tracking system to when your visa's up,
mm.
people just stay. Then we need to use modern tech without going Orwellian to make sure that if you come here under a visa, you just don't disappear into society and stay here, because that's what's happening right now.
Do you think they'll usher in digital IDs because of that? Like, it seems like it could be somewhat beneficial, but you could see like that's totally like the Orwellian
It
kind of
is.
like black pill, surveillance society. But that kind of seems like it probably will end up coming to that because, like I said, they're going to want to have the excuse to track people, and in general, it's like hopefully, I mean, if it seems like that's going to be the way it's going to go, at the least, can that at least be used to get rid of the people that shouldn't be here? I hope that at least is the gets utilized for that, kind of like TSA. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that being created after 9/11 was just totally ineffective. I mean, I'm sure they've done some good, but I think it's more of just again that whole Big Brother mentality. This
Security theater. It's theater, frankly. But no, I'm
yeah,
totally against digital ID. Again, we shouldn't. We created a problem. Government created a problem. Do not roll out digital ID and get rid of all of our freedoms to solve that problem. I'm running partially because I can see what's coming. It will be the Democrats to try and roll out digital ID. And we're already seeing kind of this creep towards age verification laws already in the US. Look, again, all this bad stuff seems to start in the state of California. Age verification just to use a operating system. To use a computer, they're rolling out age verification. Now, they're
yeah, I
not
saw that.
requiring you to upload an ID or do facial scans yet, but that's coming. You're already seeing like Discord require stuff like that, certain apps. So we're already moving in that direction. You don't even need the government to come out and say specifically at a federal level, oh, we're going to have a digital ID like you're seeing in the UK. In the UK, if you don't opt into their new, mark of the beast, if you will, Orwellian digital ID, you can't get a job. You're cut out of society. I don't think that will happen here, but what you will see is states keep mandating age verification laws, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, a couple years later, you got to do a facial scan. It's no big deal. You just need it to use your computer. Oh, you just have to do that to have a job. It's just an employment check to make sure you're here legally. No, we shouldn't create a problem as government and then take away all of our liberty to solve that problem. That's unacceptable. I'll push back against any form of digital ID or central bank digital currency for this country.
Awesome. I love to hear that. I totally support candidates that are against
Yep.
CBDCs. This basically just fake money is what it is. It's just
That's
government
right.
controlled money that they could, just like your car, they could turn your car off whenever they wanted to. They could stop your CBDC, whatever your little government crypto coin is. They could shut off your
Yep.
account immediately. They could, they could seize your funds, just like even with the banking system. So yeah, that is very detrimental. But I'm trying to think. Another topic I wanted to hit on was see, we talked about property taxes. Oh yeah,
Casey,
I
just
guess
one more thing on the
yeah,
civil liberty piece was civil asset forfeiture. This has not been discussed in many years on a federal level for the political system, but every year between $2 and $3 billion is seized from hardworking American citizens and legal green card holders. And typically, what happens is all that, depending on the jurisdiction, all a law enforcement officer has to do is, oh, that could be related to drugs or crime or terrorism or whatever the excuse is, depending on the jurisdiction. And then they can seize your assets, seize all of your cash, and you never get charged with a crime. I spoke with a woman at Publix. Publix is a local supermarket, here in the state of Florida in the southeast. She had about $10,000 seized during a road trip. Was never charged with a crime. They just took her money and she never got it back. Again, they've seized around, according to IJ, about $68 billion since the year 2000. So from 2000 to 2019, whether it's federal agencies, state government, or local law enforcement, $68 billion has been seized from American citizens and legal immigrants. That's completely unconstitutional. We need to shut it down, and we need to have some laws to address this because it's completely a Fourth Amendment violation in my view. And again, it's government just seizing or stealing our cash, stealing our assets. It's terrible.
yeah, that's how they punish you, unfortunately nowadays, especially when you saw under the Biden regime. And thankfully, we haven't seen it that much with Trump. We actually have seen where in previous times where you could even have your bank account taken away for having the wrong political opinion.
Sure.
There actually was an executive order. Something I will give Trump credit for, actually making it to where like Bank of America had to literally like unban conservatives and give them their bank accounts back because they unlawfully, or I mean, essentially, yeah, unlawfully, terminated their ability to transact. Which, I mean, I'm not sure. I would assume you're on the same page with that. There. I mean, I think
Of course.
you as
Yeah.
an American, should have transactional freedom. I know that's not technically in the Constitution, but I think our founding fathers would certainly believe that.
Yeah, we need a digital bill of rights because again, the courts have mixed views on Flock. They've had, one in out West Coast, they say, hey, any images or video captured by Flock, it's a public good. So anybody can request, say I'm Joe Schmo, I can request, the pictures for Susie. So what they did is they shut down all the cameras because that's a privacy nightmare. Unfortunately, the people pushing back on Flock safety and this Orwellian AI system, it's mostly people on the left. And Casey, do you know why that is?
I would assume because they are supporting illegal immigrants and they don't want to be identified, and crimes and riots and all that.
You're on it. They are more concerned about the rights of illegal immigrants than American citizens, and they're worried about the federal government using it to get illegals. Now, from my understanding, they've only gotten, a few illegal immigrants using this system. To me, it seems more like a control mechanism. And back to your point, it's not just government that's rolling out. Home improvement stores have it. I'm not going to say the exact one, but it's not Home Depot, but another company has it for virtually every single parking lot. HOAs are using it. College campuses are using it. And again, I feel like all these organizations to communicate, it's not just your local police department that's watching you. It's the federal government, state governments, and about 5,000 local police departments that have authorization that can go in the system and watch you. It's
And it,
really an Orwellian nightmare. I mean, imagine what the
yeah,
founding fathers would say if they could see flock safety, man.
yeah, and it's the scariest thing with AI they're even talking about now, especially with a company like Palantir, is they're trying to do this pre-crime thing where they can predict crimes before they happen, which is a
Yep.
total another level of scariness. You're talking about just almost tapping into someone's thoughts or maybe intentions that could be interpreted a certain way, or maybe even in some cases could be politically weaponized against you. That's a very scary precedent we're seeing set forward.
Yes.
And here's the whole digital bill of rights thing. Like how would you, because it's kind of a slippery slope, because I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. But how would you make it to where you give the people the freedom of speech, but you still allow the platform to, I guess you essentially would allow them to moderate, but you would not allow them to censor speech. So it's kind of like you would basically be telling the platforms, like, we're going to restrict your ability to moderate in basically someone's political discourse, let's say. At the same time, I guess Section 230 protects those companies from being able to do that. So would you have to completely like have an amendment for that in general, or like I'm just kind of confused how you would even go about that. Seems kind of tricky.
So there's two separate issues here. They're related but separate. So Section 230 allows for that current public square environment where, of course, it's a private corporation. They can still censor and do what they want according to their terms and conditions, which again, that's another whole can of worms as we saw during COVID, because the government had a portal where they could directly coordinate with big tech to censor, medical freedom and discussion of the COVID shot, which actually technically wasn't a vaccine. They changed the definition, but yeah, I resigned my commission actually as Navy officer because they were about to mandate the next round. And I raised my hand. I worked for a two-star admiral. I said, "Sir, gentlemen, I'm going to resign my commission. I don't agree with all this stuff during COVID. I don't agree with punishing officers and enlisted personnel for not getting the shot." And they were just, you know, wanting to change how the military was run in general. They wanted to have white people to have different training than, Hispanics or black people.
Yeah.
And the way that you build a military is you break everybody down and build them back up together as a unit. But back to your point for social media, the digital bill of rights really covers the AI piece. It's
Mhm.
separate from section 230, but leave section 230 in place for now. The AI digital bill of rights is going to kind of cover that corporation you mentioned in terms of having like pre-crime systems set up, because that also ties into flock safety, because your location and travel history can play into that pre-crime setup. And I'm hearing certain things that, databases are being shared. Again, who knows? But we're moving in a very scary direction right now with AI. And we need to put guardrails on this. So I can't, as one man, I can't say take down every single camera in the US, right? I
Yeah.
would love to, right? Frankly, we have law enforcement that use license plate readers that are mounted on vehicles. I'm not a fan, but can I get rid of all this? Probably not. But we can have certain required levels of disclosure at the federal level, at the state level, and the local level. So let's say you can FOIA, hey, which database is my information in and why? Why am I being surveilled? So whether it's the federal agencies or local government, they have to come back to you and say, oh, this is why you're in this database, this is your information, and just give certain levels of disclosure. That's step one. I'm working on other steps for this bill or this digital bill of rights, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for all of it. But disclosure is step one. And if we don't have a digital bill of rights, I mean, we could become like China very quickly, and we're moving that direction right now. And this is with the Republicans in charge.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm afraid the Democrats are going to full-blown censorship if and when they come back into power. And if you look at the online markets for betting, it's looking more and more likely the Democrats not only could win the House but the Senate. That will be a scary time. I'm afraid censorship will come back into play, and it could be really bad for folks that are free speaking patriots like you and I.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried about that. I've almost prepared myself that I could possibly lose a platform when the Democrats getting back into power.
Yeah,
Probably by 28. I mean, it did happen to me once before, but I was able to get my account back. So I wasn't really as involved or as a notable figure in 2020 when that all was going on. I was still kind of like 1,000 followers or less. But yeah, I did. I mean, I
sure.
literally watched President Trump. We watched Jack Posobiec. We watched the entire almost right wing just get taken off the map. I mean,
Yeah,
Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, and it's not crazy to say that could happen again because you already know the Democrats are going to be out for blood. They're going to be out for
they are.
revenge. I mean, you got with ICE, I mean, honestly, just I think some of the rhetoric Trump's used is, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Rhetoric is rhetoric, whatever. But the way they perceive that is like, they are totally going to be out for blood. Whether they want to impeach Trump and Hegseth and all them, they're going to try to do that if they get power within the next couple of years. And on top of that, once they actually, like to say, we have a Gavin Newsom or an AOC that gets into power, like, yeah, it's going to be pretty bad. It's almost going to have to be like everyone's going to flock to Rumble and True Social and Gab Social. Like, I hope, knock on wood, that doesn't happen again. But I will say that there is some sentiment that's actually a good sentiment here because you look at like Instagram, some of these platforms that were crazy in censorship in the past couple of years, especially under Biden.
Mhm.
They've really been more lax with their policies. I think it's kind of a little refreshing to see.
Yep.
Again, these things they're subject to change all the time. There's always censorship waves. But yeah, I mean, I'll even personally say from being a TikToker, everyone was, I'm still very concerned with Oracle and the U.S. takeover of it. But like, I
Yeah.
haven't had a single video censored since the takeover. So
Really.
again, I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah. So yeah, honestly, maybe that was. So I'm seeing it as like basically like these companies realize that they can't just go full on censorship anymore, at least right now, because it's just there's a marketplace for open ideas and open thoughts and people that can just like some guy like sits in his garage and has this like goofy conspiracy theory and he gets like 400,000 likes like. So that's kind of the environment we're living in. It's like you just have the average Joes, speaking up, and the algorithm's promoting it, and you're starting to see a lot more like real conversations happen, especially even on these like big censorship, big tech apps. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens when, like you said, like the big tech guys that were behind Trump, like Zuckerberg and all of them, they're going to switch up. They're going to back the Democrats, and I guarantee they're going to be just in line with the censorship they once inflicted on us not too long ago. So again, I think that's why it's important for every single, even races like this, we have to get every little inch of power to move the ball forward and make sure that we can. The Republicans that are truly America First can hold the ground,
Yes.
and whatever
America
comes our
only
way.
too. Because sometimes I say America first, but sometimes maybe you should say America only. It just depends because America
I think
first,
it's
the term has been co-opted sometimes, right? So
yeah,
I'm America first, but I'm legitimately America first. I'm not just saying it just to say it. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
So
think I think the whole message "America First, America Only" it really goes together well because
it does.
obviously you're saying yes, America does come first, and not only that, it's America. It comes only. There is no there is no Ukraine, Israel, any other foreign country, Taiwan. They don't come. There is no. That's not part of what our country
That's right.
means. And but unfortunately, our elected representatives, many of them, both sides of the aisle, they unfortunately think that's what it means to be an American. It means to give your tax dollars overseas. It means more foreign wars, more boots in the ground.
Yeah.
We're seeing that right now with what's going on with the war with Iran. I think we're day
Yeah.
9, day 10. Again, I think there's probably no peace in sight there. It doesn't look. I hope that no casualties can happen on top of what's already happened with what Trump's done in Israel and all
There'll
that.
be more, I'm sure of
But
it,
just
unfortunately.
yeah, I'd be willing to kind of just being I guess a little optimistic here. But yeah, I just think that the younger people are really starting to see how we've just been betrayed. I mean, I think no one inherently wants boots in the ground really anywhere else right now. I mean, didn't we elect Trump and a lot of these other guys to actually put the American people first? Like, we actually wanted
Yes.
to see the groceries come down. We wanted to see gas go down, not go up because of foreign intervention. And then, yeah, like I think you would think Trump of all people would be interested in a digital bill of rights. I mean, especially, or at least something to counter censorship.
Yes, you would think.
I think that precedent that we set years ago, that's something that has to be. Republicans have to hop on this now, and like we have to put a law into, basically sign a bill into law. We have to get something to where the Democrats, as hard as they're going to try, they cannot come back and inflict this rampant censorship that's going to. It's not going to it's going to influence elections. It's going to influence day-to-day life because people are going to be robbed of having their voices and having their platforms. So that's definitely something I'm worried about. But yeah, like I really think that it's going to have to be some of these Republicans are going to have to learn the hard way. I think you've already seen Dan Crenshaw. You've seen a lot of guys already get primaried, and I think more are definitely going to come. And it's like I don't want to be this destruction kind of guy, but I do think in this case with the Republican Party, we're going to have to build it back. We're going to have to tear some of it down, and we're going to have to maybe have a new foundation of what that means. And I think that always happens. We've seen that throughout time. I mean, it's a generational thing. We're literally seeing the boomers that are like more than a quarter of our population. They're on their way out. We're seeing Gen Xers. There's decent amounts that are in power now that've been in power, but now it's really up to millennials and Zoomers. This is
Yep.
predominantly what the future holds, and I think one thing that we're seeing, putting Ukraine aside, for the most part, I think a lot of young Americans they really just do want to put America first, and they have no intention on focusing on anything else other than that. At least from what I've seen, I've talked to a lot of people on both sides. I think a lot of youth in the Republican Party, the 18 to 40-year-olds, I think it's kind of a back and forth how they feel about the country now. I think no one can really firmly say they've been actually benefited in really a good way. Besides, I mean, look, you could say that, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security. That's great, that's good, but I mean, yeah, and we also expected them to to stop the border and to withhold, to basically just stand in the way of legal immigrants. So I mean, not going to give them too much credit for that because that's what we expect them to do. But yeah, I think that's the biggest issue right now. It's just young Americans on both sides. They just feel disenfranchised. After you're talking about Biden, you're talking about the Harris campaign, then you got Trump with the Republicans of the past 12 years. So it's just, I think everyone's exhausted. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, 70, 80-year-old guys in power. So yeah, it's definitely, I kind of am optimistic about the shift that we're going to see in the future. We're going to see some really interesting races like yourself. And I think we're going to see a lot of these people are going to get challenged. A lot of these establishment war hawks and people that are
Good.
not serving their constituents, they're going to be put in their place. I mean, they're going to be facing a challenger. So I'm happy to see it.
Well, I'll tell you what, the feedback just from the time I decided to run, even before then, when I was talking with likely GOP voters, was incredible. I've got hugs from elderly women, folks shaking my hand, recognize me in the district, and this is really a grassroots campaign. I am my biggest donor by a wide margin, but if folks do want to support me, they can go to chicoforcongress.com, and even if it's just $1, $5, $10, every dollar counts in this campaign. It's not too late to save this country. I truly believe that. I'm not going to be blackpilled. I'm here to fight. I'm here to fight for my daughter. I'm here to fight for other families because there is no plan B for me. I love America. America is worth fighting for. And as we say in the Navy, I'm not giving up the ship. I'm here to fight. So again, if your viewers are able to pitch in, please check out my website, chicoforcongress.com. And if they can contribute, that would be very much appreciated, and will go towards reaching more voters and getting the message out. Because look, I'm fighting against the establishment here. I don't have special interests coming in, throwing millions of dollars at me. But if we're going to win this fight and save this country, we have to back the right candidates willing to fight. And as a whole, we need folks currently in the establishment, if they're truly going to get folks to self-deport and fight against big tech, I'm sorry, but they're going to have to lose some contributions to help save this country. It's just how it is.
Hey, Kacee, we're gonna take 5 if that's okay, and then we'll kind of jump back into it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure, that's fine.
Did I say anything, or we'll talk? But yeah.
Yeah, no,
Cool.
let's take 5, and then I'm just gonna kind of help guide you and kind
If you guys need
of.
to take a break for a second, that's all good. I mean, we're still rolling, so I can just keep giving commentary. If you guys need to take a quick break, go right ahead, and I'll still be here.
Sure.
Whatever
And
the
you can
plan is.
edit this, of course, so we're not having this conversation on Rumble. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I
Cool.
can try, but yeah, it's might just use this, but it's all good. I can take your time, take a break. But there we have it, there, folks. I want to see what you guys think about this. Like I said, we're gonna have the link in the description, the comment section. So if you guys need any, you want to support him in any way, I encourage you to do so. Doug I think he's an America First guy. I mean, he's really shown that he's about putting this country first. And like I said, I have ultimate respect for someone who has served in our military, especially someone like himself. And yeah, like I think I've reiterated this a few times, but we need millennials and Gen Z to, whether they win or not, it's like we have to get people that will challenge the establishment. And until we do, we're going to be stuck exactly where we're at. It's going to be the same uniparty. It's not benefiting Americans at all. This is an America last situation when you have people that are benefiting the foreign countries and corporations over the American voters. So let me know what you guys think about the interview so far. Go in the comment section. And like I said, we'll have the link up there for Doug, and you guys can feel free to donate and help his campaign out. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Looks like Doug is taking a break, and we'll be back. Just give us a second.
Hey, Kacee, coming back.
All good.
Yep. Yeah, and if we could edit that part out about the when he's coming in to pull me, that would be great.
Yeah, Kacee, I don't need to be in the podcast at all. Please.
Yeah, let's make sure he's not in the podcast.
I can try. It might take a long time to be fair. But yeah, no, it's all good. I literally the second, so it's all good. We can keep the conversation going. We just had a brief break there, but like I said, I just now told my audience. I literally told them to go to the comment section. We'll have your link there with your campaign donation. And I also encourage everyone to give their thoughts on your message. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of the youth, and I know it will. I mean, I don't know how that you have someone courageous like yourself. I don't see how that doesn't resonate with all 10% of youth voters in Florida. And really, I think, I mean, personally, I'm sure you probably know this as well, campaigning, but it really does make a difference when you go door to door and you talk to some of these, especially the the older generation who can't necessarily go out and vote. They don't really go out and talk to a lot of these younger guys. They're not on social media. So I think, that if you're able to go door to door, cover as many as you can during the whole process, which I'm sure you are. I mean, I'm telling you, you can make a big difference because that's what people want to see.
Sure, absolutely. So to cover a little bit more
Are you
my
still there?
platform. Yes, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's predominantly yes. What were you saying?
So again, we talked about affordability before we started going live. If families can't feed their kids, they'll accept whatever government tyranny or big tech tyranny is thrown their way. So we really need to tackle affordability and not just talk about it. So that starts with making sure that we're not having BlackRock, Blackstone buy up single family homes, get these illegal out, limit legal immigration, repeal Hart Sellers Act. Have that moratorium on immigration as a whole. Get the situation under control. Get the illegals out. Get rid of hard sellers, making sure we're getting the right people in here, and really start to tackle this affordability. I mean, look at oil prices right now. Again, we can't prosecute the folks for the Epstein crimes, but we're conducting preemptive military strikes in Iran. I have no sympathy for the government of Iran. They've killed American soldiers and Marines and corpsmen in Iraq. But at the same time, we have to be thinking, we need to put our country first. So hopefully it doesn't spiral out of control. But on the petroleum piece, part of my platform is kind of finding a new hybrid energy policy because as we drill for more petroleum, that gets shipped overseas to maximize profits. You've got countries like, Venezuela or Saudi Arabia, they have a policy where they're actually trying to lower prices at the pump. So if we were to maybe restrict some oil exports and build out our refining capacity and not just talk about it, we could actually drive gasoline prices lower for everyday American citizens because they're hurting with insurance costs, fuel cost, food cost, the price of healthcare, everything. But if we could lower gas prices, actually lower domestic prices at the pump, we'll bring down input costs for corporations. That will bring down food costs, transportation costs, and we can lower the cost of living, for Gen Z, for millennials, and even the boomers. These are steps that if we're really going to be America first, America only, we should talk about putting people over profits. So again, I think the oil market, the petroleum market, is very efficient. but we need to put our own people first and start having those conversations about maybe trying to actually lower prices at the pump in the U.S.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't know if you've heard, Alaska has somewhat of a similar situation set up. It's the only state that's tried this, but it's basically like it's not universal basic income, but what they'll do is they actually share the oil profits with the people, and I think it's like a dividend. They'll pay out like 1 to 3 grand a year to all Alaskans, and obviously Alaska is completely, it's a completely different state geographically, and there's not as many people that live there. So, but it is really interesting because like you're seeing a state like that can still operate, and you're not giving people like enough to survive off of, but basically like the dividend comes out to $250 a month just to be an Alaskan to share the profits of the oil. So again, I don't know if that the way things going. I think it's really interesting with AI. If AI takes a lot of these jobs, if maybe something like that ends up happening, where maybe some of the profits and not in a non-socialist way ends up going back to the people. So I think that do you think that AI could restructure our financial system, and obviously there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but do you think that this could inherently maybe save a lot of people, maybe give people income they didn't have, maybe save, basically get rid of retirement if basically you give AI a task and this AI could maybe basically just make you money. So that's kind of like a big conversation a lot of the big tech guys are having right now. It's just like how do we harness this AI? How do we use it to benefit the people? And first of all, it's like, will it actually, will this cause mass benefit? Will this be, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is like a mass destruction event that ends up destroying society. I mean, I hope not, but it's just with AI, do you think
I hope not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You always have to see both sides of it because like something with AI, it's just so delicate. I mean, if you've noticed from 2021 when like ChatGPT started getting mainstream, and to where we're at in 2026, like just a 5-year jump. How much AI is accelerated is unbelievable. I mean, if you were to tell me 3 years ago that I would be able to generate a real looking AI video from my phone with Twitter within like maybe 10 seconds, I would have said there's no way that's possible. But like you can make like movies now with artificial intelligence. Like you can have cars drive like self-drive cars, and you have AI decision making almost taking over like call centers and like custom representatives. Like so it's a big change I think we're going to see coming. But do you think it's possible that we could, for the better or worse, see like a UBI implemented? Do you think that's the future? Or what do you think could happen if you had to speculate?
Well, I'm concerned about the concept of UBI. And so to your point, if we're being told AI is going to replace all these white collar jobs, why are we currently flooding our country with H-1B1s and legal immigrants? That's
Exactly.
happening right now with the Republicans in charge. So it's a dichotomy. Oh, AI is going to replace all these jobs, but we need all these H-1B1s. It doesn't make any sense. So I have concerns about the concept of UBI, and just because I don't trust big government in general, that UBI is an essential bank digital currency that they can say, oh, you can spend it on this or this day, and then you drive past a flock camera, your car gets shut off, and you bought too much meat. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going into an era where AI could be used for amazing things. But the thing is, with our current power structure, the tech companies, big government, I'm just concerned that this AI will be used for more and more surveillance and to take our God-given freedoms away. Because again, our rights come from God, not from government. So we'll just have to wait and see. And yeah, I'm here to fight for my daughter's future and the future for all Americans. So
Yeah. So, what do you think about? Because I know Trump's discussed this about in 2029. There's supposedly this like dividend, I guess, for every child born after. I think it's after. I could be wrong, but I think it's after 29. There's basically $1,000 payment that they're going to give. I believe it's either every 18-year-old or it's like once you're born. So basically, what they're doing is you're just giving every single newborn child $1,000 to start out with. And partly, I've kind of speculated as to why that could be the case. Because I have a hard time believing the government ever wants to do anything good for us.
I got
Really.
concerned about that. Yeah. So we're creating
I'm
accounts at the Federal Reserve for every American citizen born. So again, I'm not saying this is a backdoor way to get a central bank digital currency going. But from my understanding, every newborn is going to have an account at the U.S. Federal Reserve, which is neither federal and they don't have reserves. So again, the idea is intriguing. It could be beneficial, gets people a head start. However, do we really want to have accounts created at the Federal Reserve? It's just it's opening a door that we maybe don't want to have open, like that age verification stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think kids watching pornographic material is terrible. Don't
Mhm.
that's absolutely outrageous. But again, big tech and big government always uses safety, crime, take care of the children, fight against DUIs and drunk driving as an attack vector, as we say in the military, to infringe on our God-given rights. So again, the thing with those accounts, I just have questions about it. There could be very good intentions coming, but could it be weaponized later and opening a door to a CBDC? Maybe. We don't know. This is
Yeah,
something like a freedom-minded individual and candidate like myself just has questions about. So I'd have to, see more on that and see how they actually implement it. But I do have concerns, to be honest with you.
yeah. I mean, me personally, I think we're talking like maybe 15 to 20 years away. Again, could be sooner with this acceleration process, but yeah, I think it's just something that it's going to be a discussion a lot of people can't avoid, especially like that and Social Security and insurance
Sure.
and Medicaid. A lot of things, a lot of the entitlements that could potentially go away or could be affected or will be affected with the change of the economy and really the change of the United States with whatever comes next. Honestly, we're in this. We're basically we're in the singularity right now. So this is a very pivotal time for the United States, and I think it's going to decide whether we actually do make it through the rest of the century as a country. I think our national sovereignty is at test here
It
with
is.
all these new nations. And I mean, it's been at test since the very beginning. But you talk about now, and we're almost seeing every single one of our constitutional amendments infringed on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
there's almost no power structure that can go against it besides really just getting enough people in government. But even then, it's just like the interests are just so powerful to do what's anti-American. Again, like that's more. I'm a big proponent on possibly restructuring how lobbying is. I mean, you can't really take money out of politics. That's just how it works. I think you should be able to. You can't say you're not allowed to financially support a candidate of your choosing. But I think there has to be a more structured way to make sure that it can't be used to be manipulated. It can't be. I mean, a lot of like, for instance, like it's legal, but I have an issue with how Elon Musk can go put $10 million in our U.S. Senate in Kentucky election when he's got no stake in Kentucky at all. So things like that I feel like are really making it's putting a lot of like lopsided elections. And really it's like you talk about what $10 million will do for any candidate. I mean, you're talking about constant advertising. You're running TV ads all day. It's like you probably have enough signs and you can have enough events for the next 10 years if you were to run. So that's a problem I have, and I think it's blatantly obvious that is just interfering with these election processes. And again, it's a slippery slope because you don't want to tell someone you're not allowed to send the money they're choosing to someone they like. But again, we have to maintain our constitutional republic and the democracy that our founding fathers envisioned. Because I think it's very easily going the opposite way, and you have people like Mike Johnson, for instance, that will even as a Republican will go against your Fourth Amendment privacy rights because his donors will tell him that, hey, here's an extra $20,000 if you support this. So that's a big thing that and I think it just stems down to Americans need to realize, look, I'm not loyal to the parties. I'm loyal to this country.
Sure.
And again, it doesn't mean don't be a Republican because of Trump. No, it's just like you should be able to be an independent thinker, just like you're saying. And you have the independence as an American and the sovereignty to cast your vote. And I think that as every single right, every piece of power that we have, we need to use that to our leverage and to our advantage. Whether you're running for Congress, whether you're a journalist, whether you're someone that just is fighting for a good cause. I mean, as a regular American, I think now is the time to make your voices heard, and we have to, people like yourself, we've got to put people like you in positions of power, and we're going to see change overnight. I mean, it's time to get rid of the old guard, and it's time for millennials and Gen Z, to change America. I think that's
right.
where we're at in the country.
Yeah. And if you limit the campaign cycle, like how long you can legally campaign, again, that's going to reduce the need to raise all that money. So that's going to get a lot of those problems and tackle them. And again, the lobbying, that's a good way to tackle that. It's not going to solve everything, but you won't have to raise, as much money. You can have people like me come in and you can have a more level playing field if there's not a long, continuous campaign cycle. Because right now, if you're elected to the Senate, or more so, the House of Representatives, you're always in campaign mode because
Yeah.
your term is 2 years. So you have to constantly be raising money to get elected and then get reelected. We should shorten that cycle. I don't know how long it should be, but it shouldn't cost an average of $2.3 million to win a U.S. House seat. Something has to change. So again, looking at shortening that cycle for campaigning is a great first step. Now, of course, I would be opposed by the establishment on that because it means less money for the system, but
Yeah.
it's something good to look at. And I've not really heard that discussed in many places, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's insane. Like, and why it really affects me, and I talk about this on a daily basis because I'm just seeing it firsthand with our U.S. Senate race and with Thomas Massie. I think the total number of they call it the anti-Massey Pact or something like that. It's just some goofy name, but they put up
Yeah.
like $25 million, and I mean it's like I think it's probably it's got to set a record. It's pretty close, but I mean it's like you really need $25 million to win a House seat, and that's just crazy. That's kind of where we're at today. I mean it really does take. I guess in my case in Kentucky, because we're so loyal to Thomas Massie, it's like that's what they literally have to put the whole war chest against him to at least move the needle. And I still think in our case we're still going to win with Massie, but it's getting very close. So I don't know if you know President Trump is actually he's coming to my home turf this Wednesday. He's going to make a quick little pit stop to CVG Airport. It's familiar. It's the airport in Cincinnati, it's technically Northern Kentucky, but they call it Cincinnati. But he'll actually be landing on Air Force One to do. He hasn't said exactly what it's going to be, but I can almost assume that he's going to be there to bash Thomas Massie, do the typical, Trump stuff. Which whatever. I mean, we're kind of expecting it, but it just I don't know. It's interesting because the state of Kentucky, we're also in some very serious elections, and obviously our governor Andy Beshear, who's he's pro transgender mutilations. He's very anti-American, and unfortunately, this guy has a 2% chance on Polymarket of even possibly being the next president. So yeah, Kentucky's a great state. We've got some great leaders, but at the same time, we've got a lot of corruption, just like I'm sure you guys do in Florida and all the other states. I mean, it's the establishment they've been in power for many, many years, and it's not easy to break them down and to defeat them. Honestly, it's like you think about how many real independent candidates we have out there, and like not independent meaning independent party, meaning they firmly don't side with the party and they just think for themselves. Like it's very far and few in between on either side.
I agree.
But the good thing to it is like it's funny because if you betray your constituents, you're going to be popular with the establishment in D.C. But if you betray D.C. and the president and all that, you're going to be unpopular with them, and you're going to be very popular with your constituents. So it's like, which would you rather choose? Because you really can't. You can try to put up the big tent and please everybody, but if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of what I've personally seen get into politics make is they just think that first they try to be. I mean, everyone's on the side of their constituents. You're usually almost everyone who gets into politics. They either have it. I mean, everyone who wants to do it for the right reason does it because there's something affected them, or they have a social issue or a policy they want to fix. And I think it's just a slippery slope when you have you have people like Lindsey Graham, and you have people that they would just get. I call them like nepotism politicians because they've came from they came from the Good Boys Club, and they kind of just got boosted their way up into it artificially. Similar to a J.D. Vance, in my opinion. He has a very, very skeptical background, and I think the way things are looking right now, if you've noticed ever since the past 2 weeks, the establishment in D.C. really seems to be more aligned with Marco Rubio in 2028 rather than J.D. Vance. I don't know if you picked that up at all, but it's very strange how things are moving even within D.C. right now because midterms coming up, and I think everyone's concerned because you got to think 2027. About next summer, we're going to start seeing people announce for 28, and we're going to see the Republican debates of 27. So we're talking a year, 14 months away. And on top of midterms, we're talking. Well, your election's probably 6 weeks away, maybe a month or 2 months.
No, so our primary is August 18th. So
okay, your primary is in August. Gotcha. Okay, you're not in May then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that why is that? Is that like by design, or is it just happen to be that way?
Just how it is. But to your point, I'll say that money does not mean victory. Money does not buy elections. It helps with name ID, voter recognition, all that stuff. So it certainly helps. But I think more now than ever, the GOP base is they're not happy, to say the least. And I've heard that on the ground. I've spoken with about 1,500 likely GOP voters, actually more than that now after last couple weeks. But people are tired of the status quo. They're tired of this corrupt system. There are good people that go up to DC, or I assume they're good people, but the
Yeah.
system seems to corrupt everybody that gets up there. As they say in the district, you either get the carrot or you get the stick when you get inside the district and you win. Now, I'm not going to sell out to the system because I feel like we're so close again to losing our country. I take my oath to the Constitution very seriously. I took an oath twice as a plebe at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and then as a newly commissioned Navy officer as an ensign. I take that very seriously. I'm not going to sell out. We have to fight for this country and we have to save it. How are we going to try and save it? Single issue bills. Enough of this omnibus stuff. Put a single issue bill on the floor. I'll do it. I'll put a bill on the floor even if I don't have the votes necessary to ensure it passes, because I want everyone to go on record, yay or nay, for what they actually believe and what they actually stand for. And then they have to answer to their constituents back in their home district why they voted no on my bill. It's the only way forward in some capacity, right? Because we have these massive omnibus bills where they put stuff out there, and you have Republicans and Democrats, they'll vote for unpopular stuff, for stuff that likely is unconstitutional, for sweetheart spending deals and earmarks. And they get away with it because it's part of this omnibus bill, because it's something was the must pass bill, like a DHS authorization or a DOD funding bill. Oh, we have to fund the military. Well, guess what? We've got a bunch of pork that just got thrown in there, or some unconstitutional surveillance stuff. We have to change how business works up in DC, because if we don't, we're just going to lose the country and we're just going to, slide into tyranny. I'm not about that. I'm actually here to fight and put our country first.
Yeah, no, I love to hear it. I believe you. I can totally tell you're convicted, and you really want to put this country first, and we got to fix this problem, man. I'm telling you, this is a generational issue, and it is going to take the absolute utmost bravery and courage and sacrifice of people like you and I to just to speak the truth and to be a wrench in the system, as some people call it. But and yeah, that inherently it might not take. It's going to take more than 5-10 years, but I think over time. That'll be that's how we save our country. I mean, I think this is the test. I guess the test of time will be, if we can actually save our civilization. We have a country in the year 2100 or 2200.
I don't think we have that much time. I don't think we even have 10 years.
You think it's less than that?
I think we have to turn things around next couple of years, or the country may be lost. I'm running right now because of that. Because I can see what the Democrats they're going to try and bring digital ID, like in the next couple of years. I'm not worried about next decade. I'm worried about 2026 to 2030.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. I mean, yeah, these are, like I said, these are pivotal years. Things are either going to go really well or really bad. And I think you also talk about like the multipolar powers of Russia and China. It's like we're now seeing a point in time where it used to be where Russia and China together wouldn't be more powerful than the United States. Now it's like they are just as powerful as the United States together. And so that's where it's creating a lot of tension. When you talk about tariffs, you're talking about global trade, a lot of these conflicts that could, things like Taiwan, like Russia, Ukraine. It's like those things are they're coming to a very interesting time because as America, we're going to have to really decide. I mean, how do we maintain the global superpower of the world? I mean, we're not manufacturing anything. We're shipping our jobs overseas. We don't seem to actually have a future set up where the average American can have have a home, have kids, have a future. That's inherently we will get passed up by every other country, and I would hate to see a time or at any time where America is not number one, and I don't even want to know what that looks like because we're easily headed that way, and if we're not already there, I mean I think that's why, like I said, it's going to be nothing but turmoil, like economically, more wars. Like when the United States loses its power, it's and how the currency as well too. It's like, I mean, imagine if countries stop purchasing our currency. I mean that's just going to destroy.
You're already seeing de-dollarization right now. Look at the price of gold. Foreign central banks, they have their holdings in U.S. Treasury bonds. When those bonds mature, they roll them over and invest in new treasuries. Now that's not happening quite as often right now. They're putting it into gold regardless of price. Look at the
Yeah.
price of
The
gold. It
craziest
looks
thing I
like a
saw was
biotech stock.
gold. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so gold is like what 43, maybe 4,200 an ounce, somewhere maybe a bit less. But it used to
5,000.
be
It got
five.
up to
Okay,
like 5,400 on COMEX. So
that's wow.
and they could go $6,000, $8,000. Again, that's foreign central banks moving out of dollar denominated assets and buying gold regardless of price.
Yeah, and the best way to
Now,
put it,
the,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, just real quick, yeah. So basically, like think of it as how in I don't know, let's say 1960, it used to be that you could make enough a week, or everyone made enough a week that equaled 1 ounce of gold. And you look today, it's like the average person is not making $5,000 a week, but they used to be on paper back then. That was my point with that. You can continue.
Sure. So again, we have to fix something, the fiat system, we never had a global fiat system until we went off the gold standard in 1971. So there's a website called, what happened, I'm paraphrasing, what happened, WTF happened in 1971. And you can't necessarily say, causation equals correlation, but we went off the gold standard. Obviously, the Vietnam War, we're taking debts, we were cheating, we didn't have the gold to back our actual, amount of dollars in circulation. And, European governments were about to call us out on that. That's why Nixon, said, hey, we're going to give up. They came back, they went off the gold standard, they temporarily closed the gold window, but there's no such thing as temporary government actions. We went off the gold standard, our debt exploded, and a lot of our societal fabric actually started to come unwound. So things that you would really not correlate with, the price of gold or monetary policy, stuff started to break after 1971. We're talking marriages, all this stuff in society, the number of children you'd have, how old you are when you got married, et cetera, et cetera. So we really need to find a new system. I don't know if that's some type of resource-backed currency, but the US dollar is a Ponzi scheme. It is. It is the world's largest Ponzi scheme. And we really have to manage this closely and manage it well, because what I'm afraid of happening is, if we keep going on this path of fiscal insanity and foreign central banks, again, outside of SWIFT, are de-dollarizing. I mean, look at Chinese and their holdings of U.S. Debt, U.S. Treasury bonds. It's been plummeting. I mean, that's going to happen. They're wanting to compete with us. I get it. But what I don't want to happen is we continue the status quo, continue to spend on things that we can't afford, and then we have trillions of these dollars held overseas in accounts come back, and they're reshored. And we're talking about non-zero risk of hyperinflation.
Yeah.
Seriously, at some point. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or if it's going to be like the British Empire where we have like a slow decline. But we have to be careful, and we
You
have
think
to
like
get
a
our fiscal house in order. And maybe we tie congressional salaries to the deficit.
mm,
Hey, if we
interesting.
have a deficit over 2 or 3% of GDP, maybe
Yeah.
your salary's cut in half. Maybe you don't get your $90 per diem for food up in DC. I don't know. We need to have these
Yeah,
unpopular conversations. Now, maybe they'd be wildly popular with my future constituents as your congressman, but
for
I'll
sure.
tell you what, folks in DC, they don't want to give up their salaries. But we have to take bold action if we're actually going to save the country, which is why I'm here.
Yeah, no, I love to hear it. So, do you think that something like Bitcoin could be a possible alternative? 'Cause I know Florida's really pro Bitcoin. They have the Bitcoin conference every year. Seems to be the sentiment seems to be really growing there. A lot of people even President Trump, and I think I've even heard Ron DeSantis say some good things about it, that they'll even basically call it a solid hard-backed asset that is essentially digital gold. And I'm wondering, like, who knows? Maybe something like that could be, the future that does save the economy. Because, like I said, fiat currency. I mean, the dollar, it's not going anywhere. It's only going down. I mean, you look at the trajectory over time since we went off the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's basically just worthless. And I think it's not even equal to. You look at the dollar to gold ratio ever since we went off. It just says like it's like 0.000. It's like hundreds of zeros. Like it's basically a worthless Ponzi scheme, like you said.
We effectively already had hyperinflation already. You go back to
Yeah.
1913. Now, I mean, I would call that hyperinflation. The dollar's value has been destroyed. And in terms of blockchain, absolutely, I think that's interesting technology. There's certainly uses for it, but I also want to be careful that it's not used for complete government tyranny, because you bring in AI and blockchain. They say you'll have nothing to be happy if everything gets put on a blockchain. Do you have total freedom? Do you have privacy? So these are just conversations that we need to have. But yeah, blockchain will play a role in the future, but we need to make sure we have the right people in power, the right people elected in Congress to make sure we keep our God-given rights instead of just letting BlackRock and Blackstone just control everything and all your assets in the blockchain, and they can just freeze your assets if you say the wrong thing or you drive past too many flock cameras. Who knows? So
Yeah, that's a scary reality. Again, I hope we can avoid this. I mean, it's going to take a major fight to stop the powers that be. I mean, like I said, they already have it in motion with the whole AI surveillance thing with vehicles or the kill switch. So that's something that seems to be at least out of reach for now to stop. But again, you know what? Anything can be amended. We can get someone in the future to overturn that. I firmly believe that. We get a real Christian, a real American, someone who just wants to do right by America. We can definitely you flip the switch overnight. I mean, you talk about terrible policies, abysmal policies with no sort of strategy behind them. I mean, who's to say someone like yourself can't come in with a plan already and you can just, I mean, a lot of these guys, they don't have any strategy. They're just there to take the paycheck. And
yes,
I mean, another thing I've known is a lot of them I found out personally that they don't even actually read the bills, like the omnibus bills. Like they just have they'll have their staffers do it, or they'll have AI just crunch it through and paraphrase. And like some of them will straight up admit, like, oh yeah, I didn't have the time to read this bill, or I didn't feel like doing it. Like they're not even shameful about it. They just straight up say, like, no, I didn't do my job.
And maybe they legitimately, again, make the bill 10 pages or max.
Yeah,
5-10 pages at
I
the
agree with
high
that.
end.
Yeah.
And again, if people are having a campaign constantly, they may not have time to read all these bills. I'm being legitimate here. If you don't shorten the darn campaign cycle, can you really be trying to govern as well as you can? And another thing, maybe we should start sunsetting all of these laws. Like if a law is not renewed, or a regulatory agency doesn't re-up a regulation. We've got all these regulations all the time. Do we need all of them? Are these regulatory agencies really promoting freedom and liberty? In most cases, they're not. If you go back to when we founded this country, we only had a couple, agencies. You need DOD, National Defense, but you do need an ATF. Do you need a Department of Education? I would say probably not.
No.
But again, government has been growing in scope. Yes, the left always points out the number of employees has decreased, but the scope and size of government and their impact on our daily life and the size of the percent of GDP has only been growing. And it's crowding out private investment, and it's infringing in many cases on our God-given liberties and freedom. So, I'm a Christian. I'm a Southern Baptist. Again, our rights come from the Almighty, not from government.
Amen. Yeah, I'm about to be a Catholic myself. I'll be confirmed in about a month or so. So looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
I definitely found a closer connection with God in the past couple of years, and I think partly it's just seeing how terrible the world is, and just seeing, I call it the fallen world. I mean, it's what the Bible says. We are living in an actual world that's fallen. It's corrupt, and some things are irreversible, and that's why we do have to look, in my opinion, to Jesus Christ as our Savior. And ultimately, in the end, that's what matters, and that's how we do win this fight. We don't win with violence or with, just the things that the left and even people on the right are guilty of. It's just all about truthful honesty and just not willing to compromise and betray the people that literally voted you in and gave you money. I mean, because I've seen it happen too much. I've been a part of races where that's happened to me. I mean, imagine you giving someone $200 for a race and then they personally backstab you like a couple months later. So that's just the harsh reality of politics. It is a money game. It's very few and far in between that actually will stand up for their morals and won't be compromised. And that's just whether you're Kentucky, Florida, even outside the United States, things are way worse. I mean, we sometimes take for granted the freedoms we do have here, which I think number 1 and 2 for sure. Even that they do get infringed to a point. I've seen people. There's a lot of issues with Second Amendment rights that I've seen infringed with, especially Democrats, but and First Amendment. First Amendment, I would say like back and forth, but that is what predominantly makes us Americans. Those are the two, God-given rights, and
right.
And I think as long as we have at least half the population that knows that and believes that, I think we'll have a country that is worth living in, and we'll be able to survive whatever comes next. But again, it's kind of just balancing out optimism and pessimism. You have to be real, and you have to understand. Look, we have a lot of adversity headed our way. It's going to take, it's going to take an entire lifetime of dedication and sacrifice if you really want to make this country better. And that's something I've gladly liked to. I mean, I've signed up for and I've accepted. I really don't see another life other than talking about. I mean, it might sound crazy to talk about politics and just having conversations like this. I mean, I think this is really important, and that's really what we need more of. I would love to see 10 more of me, 10 more of you. I mean, if that happens, I mean, I think there's already some out there, but just imagine how much of a difference that would make. When it comes to actually getting laws passed and legislation, like that's really what's going to, in my opinion, steer us in the right direction. It's just having the right amount of optimism and also being a realist at the same time. That's kind of, in my couple years of politics, which again isn't hardly anything compared to some of these guys that have built careers off this for their entire life, have much more experience than I do. But yeah, that's just my take as an outsider looking in, and also kind of having some experience. I feel like I've kind of seen a little bit of both worlds, so it's very interesting. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I mean, I commend every patriot who has, especially like I said, if you served, you have the the courage to stand up again and really fight for what's right. So, like I said, I completely commend what you're doing. I support what you're doing. I definitely, you have my. I mean, I can't vote for you, but you have my support as much as I can. So, no, I'm looking forward to see how your election plays out in August. I think you're definitely going to it's going to be pretty interesting because, I mean, I don't see how people don't see someone like yourself and aren't enticed. And now, in perspective, you guys have any debates set up? Or are you and your opponent planning to have any forum or any sort of conversation like that?
No, there's no scheduled debates. I would love to debate censorship Jimmy, as I call him, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. It is early on. We do have about 6 months until the election. There's a 3-to-1 ratio. This is one of the most conservative districts in Florida. So there's about a 3-to-1 ratio versus Republicans versus registered Democrats. So whoever wins the primary will likely win the election. But the swamp is well funded. I will say again, every single dollar counts. It's going to come down to Gen Z and millennials to save this country, in my view. So let's send a message to Washington, D.C. that the voice of young Americans, young patriots, young Christians does matter. And again, every dollar counts. Please consider going to chicoforcongress.com and contributing even $1, even $5, because every dollar is going to help keep me in this fight and help me win. I've been blessed with a phenomenal team. I just decided to run in October. I did not have long-term political ambitions, but I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to fight for Northwest Florida, and I'm not going to give up. And I do believe, God willing, we will win this election and take the fight to D.C., where obviously there'll be a whole nother fight, but I'm ready to take it on.
Love to hear it, Doug. I mean, you definitely, like I said, absolutely convicted. I think you're definitely the guy for the job. And yeah, I mean, I'll tell all my friends in Florida, I definitely will encourage them to be voting for you and, to get more people in power like yourself, because I think that's an important thing to use our platforms for. It's just not, helping ourselves and our own enrichment, but it's more, in general, it's the actual message. It's helping others. It's getting, just building an army of Christian patriots that just want to take this country back in the right way possible, and the most right way possible. So,
That's right.
No, I appreciate your time, Doug. You're free to come back on the show whenever you want. Like I said, I think this is it's awesome that I could get to sit here and talk about some of these crazy policies that we've seen the left, even the right, guilty of, and how we can fix that. And these kind of conversations are really important. Like I said, completely commend what you're doing, and we're really curious to see what happens with the race. So because we'll be watching for sure. So, Doug, I appreciate it. I mean, anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I'll just say, if it wasn't for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would not be here today. And God willing, we will take this country back. We will win, but it's going to take the younger generation to keep stepping up and actually show up and vote and fight this good fight. So, Kacee, I really appreciate it, and I look forward to being back on at a future date.
Yes, sir. Glad for having you, sir. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. God bless. Have a great day.
God bless you.